Hello everyone, Danielle here with Blooming Heart Shop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make herringbone style wrapped earrings. I've got two styles that I'm going to show you how to make, the single and the double. To get started, you are going to need a few tools. You will need your flush cutters, a pair of bent nose pliers, chain nose pliers, you will need nylon jaw pliers to straighten out the wire, and you have a choice of the round nose pliers like this or step bail pliers for consistent loops. I highly recommend this guy. If not, this one will do in a pinch. Just make sure that you try to get your loops consistent and use it on the same time every time. Maybe mark it with a Sharpie on the bail. You will also need your wire. I'm using 20 gauge silver and gold filled for these projects. A 20 gauge wire will give it a more presence with that herringbone wrap. For my pearls, I end up using a smaller gauge, a 22 gauge, and it gives it a more dainty look. I've got my 8mm blue apatite beads that I'm going to be using for that single style herringbone wrap. The bead choice is yours. You can do it faceted or non-faceted in whatever size you like to do. Maybe bigger and more dramatic with a 10mm, or smaller with maybe a smaller 6mm size, but these are 8mm. All right, getting started with that single, I'm going to be taking about 6 inches of this wire. Straighten it out. I'm going to use about 6 inches. Cut that off. Doing 2. So I need to cut 2 pieces. All right. Set this aside. I'm going to take my 8mm bead and put it on the wire, leaving about 1.5 inches to 2 inches at the top. That's where you're going to be making your top loop. Now to start that herringbone wrap, I am just going to bend it just like this and give it that nice wrap around the bottom all the way to the top. And I'm going to be applying pressure, keeping that bead towards the bottom so it's not sliding up here. I'm going to make sure that it stays towards the bottom. And I hold the bead and I'm going to wrap it around the top right there. All the way around, making sure that everything's nice and tight. A lot of pressure. If you need to, you can use those bent nose pliers to get it nice and around that top little area right there. And we're going to go back around on the opposite side of our other weave. And I'm going to go right behind that first wrap, again applying lots of pressure here to keep everything together. Now I've got it on the first side with that first wrap, and I'm going right beside it, all the way around to the top right there again. I'm going to curve it around. And here I have one of my final wraps that I'm going to do on that. Following that same wrap from before, applying pressure and keeping everything as tightly together as possible. I'm going to do my final wrap around that base wire. Got something like this now. I'm going to take my flush cutters and give it a nice little snip right here. Oops. Okay. I'm going to pinch it down, make sure that it's nice and secure on that wire. And I've got something like this now. I'm going to create that top loop that I get to attach the ear wire to. Take those chain nose pliers and I'm going to give it a 90-degree bend, like so. With my step bail pliers now, I get to, I'm going to use my smallest bail for the loop. Got it nice, holding it nice and tight there in the armpit right there. I work it around, adjust, and finish it off. I'm going to straighten out my loop so it's going to be nice and straight. So I've got something like this now, and I'm going to cut off the excess. I use those flush cutters flat up against that loop on the inside, discarding the excess. I'm going to close this down, pinch it down, and now I have one of those herringbone wraps on that blue apatite. Let's do the second one. All right, again, you take your bead, you're going to thread it on there, leaving about an inch, maybe 2 inches, inch and a half, 2 inches if you're new to this. I bend it around one side up to the top, keeping that pressure and making sure that that gemstone bead is not slipping up. It stays at the bottom of that. Wrap it around, all the way around that top wire, and then you're going to be able to continue to wrap around the other side now, and you're going to want to stay behind that first wrap to this base wire again. Wrap it around that wire, keeping a lot of pressure on that, making sure that nothing moves and slips. You're going to go back around with this wrap, always staying behind and applying pressure with your fingers to keep it together. We're going to wrap one more time around, be able to cut the excess, and then pinch it down, making sure that it's nice and secure. There we go, number 2. Let's make the loop for it to attach the ear wire again, using those chain nose pliers, creating a 90-degree bend. My step bail pliers, using that smallest loop, getting into that armpit right there of it and working it all the way around, straightening it out and cutting the excess. Using that flat side down, I cut that, and then I'm going to pinch and make that loop. Now I've got my single herringbone wrap blue apatite earrings. Let's do the double now. I'm going to be using the gold for this. since it's got a second bead at the top, I'm going to go just a little bit longer on the piece that I make. And I cut it first, so I'm going to make this about 8 inches now. Give it an extra inch just to be sure. 8 inches. I'm going to straighten out my wire. Do 8 inches here. Put this aside. All right, here we go. Now with this one, I'm going to do about 2.5 inches on that top, so I'll be able to have enough room to place the 4mm. That's the one that I use at the top. You can use whatever size bead you would want, but I like to use the 4mm for the top bead. So I give myself some extra room. Got this lovely citrine that I'm working with this. This is a AAA grade citrine. It is gorgeous. It's got this nice clarity, but then these beautiful yellow, golden yellow striations in there. All right, so I've got it bent on the side. I'm going to wrap it around that top. So I've got something like that. I'm going to continue to wrap around the other side, going behind my previous wrap, keeping it as close as possible to that, all the way to the top, wrapping it around that base top wire, again trying to keep it as close as possible to the previous wraps and keep it nice and tight. Doing my third and final wrap with this one. I'm going to cut off the excess and pinch it down just to make sure it's secure. Now we've got, just like we had before with the single, and now before you make the loop, just add your second stone. Now you can make the 90-degree bend. Get those step bail pliers and make your loop for the top. I bend it around all the way, hold it, finish that, and I'm actually going to create another little wrap at the top instead of cutting it off. So I use my bent nose pliers to hold that loop, and I'm going to wire wrap the top just to kind of give it that extra look of the wire wrapped, kind of make it all come together, trim the excess, and there I have my double wrap. All right, time for number 2. I've got that 8mm citrine. I'm going to give myself about 2.5 inches on the top. Wrap it around the top. Again, applying lots of pressure to this, keeping everything really well together, wrapping it behind my previous wrap, wrapping it around that top wire. My third and final wrap, keeping it tight and close, trimming off the excess, pinching it down to kind of keep it all nice and secure. adding that second gemstone there. Chain nose pliers, 90-degree bend. Here we go. Wrapping it all the way around. Gonna finish off this loop by grabbing the loop and wire wrapping around that top part, bringing it all together, trimming the excess, making sure everything's nice and flat and flush. Now I've got my 2 herringbone wraps. Now obviously I need to make the ear wires to complete these, but that is basically how you do the herringbone wrap for the earrings. Now just attach the ear wire and you've got a beautiful pair of earrings. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to check out my other ones and let me know in the comments how you did or if you have any questions. Good luck, guys.